In this lesson, we're going to talk about when graphs are increasing, when they are decreasing, and when they are constant. So, in part 1 here, we have a definition of intervals. An interval is a period of time so there's a typo there, a period of time between 2 points of time or events. So in this graph we have the relationship between time and speed, and if we look at this part of the graph right here, remember we always read a graph from left to right, so let's pretend that we are in a car. So mine is going to be a truck. If our truck is traveling here, we would say the truck is going uphill. So that means that interval right here is increasing. Now, this next interval from here to here is not going uphill, but it's not going downhill. So the truck would stay steady, and we call that a constant interval. And then at this point here, the truck would be described as going downhill, and so that interval is decreasing. So if we take a look at where the graph is increasing, we would say it's increasing from here to here on the x-axis, and then it is constant until there, and then it is decreasing there. So the x-axis right here are the intervals where it is increasing, constant, and decreasing. Let's take a look at the got it. What type of interval is interval S? So if we were in a truck, I would say that the truck is going uphill, so S is increasing. It doesn't ask us this, but I'm going to go ahead and write it down, that T, the interval T, is decreasing. Let's take a look at part 2. Label the graphs to indicate which intervals are increasing, decreasing, or constant. So, in part A, let's label. We have the graph that goes uphill here. We'll call that A. So I would say that interval A is increasing. And let's call this part interval B, and we'll say that B is decreasing because it's going downhill. Now I want to introduce you to some things that you will see in high school. What we do is we talk about the interval where it's increasing, and if you notice that this arrow goes down there like that, so it will forever be doing that. So we're going to say it is increasing from negative infinity up to 0. And that's how we would write that. So the interval where the graph is increasing is from negative infinity, because if we start over here, it would be going uphill forever up until the 0. And then at 0, it starts to decrease, so the decreasing interval is from 0 to infinity. Remember, we're talking about the x-axis where the graph is increasing and decreasing. So it's increasing everywhere over here, and it's decreasing everywhere over here. And that's what my answer right there is telling us. Let's take a look at part B. So let's label this A. Let's label this part B and this part C. So interval A is not going up or down, so we say it is constant. And if I look at the x-axis where that happens, I take this up here, it is happening everywhere here. So it's constant from negative infinity, so that's over here, all the way forever, all the way up until, oh, let's say that's about 1/2. Then interval B is going uphill, so we say it is increasing. And that's happening from 1/2 until we get to about 1. So it's increasing from 1/2 up until 1 on the x-axis. And then finally, interval C is constant again. And that starts at 1 right here, and it is constant forever, so we say it goes until infinity. So again, this notation that I'm showing you right here and right here, that's notation that you will talk about in high school. I'm just giving you a preview. What you really need to be able to do is tell me where graphs are increasing, decreasing, and where they are constant. All right, let's take a look at the back page. In part 2, we're going to label the graph to indicate which intervals are increasing, decreasing, or constant. So again, let's name this part A, and let's name this part B. So I will say that interval A is going uphill, so it's increasing. Remember, we're always reading a graph from left to right. So if you start on the left-hand side over here, it goes up until it hits to 0. So it's increasing from negative infinity to 0. And then interval B takes over, and we say that is going downhill, so it's decreasing. And we will say it's decreasing from 0 all the way forever. So it's from 0 to infinity. Again, this part here, that's what you will need to do in high school. This part here is what you need to do right now. Okay, let's take a look at part 3. Here we have a graph, and we're going to answer these questions. How many constant intervals are there? How many increasing? How many decreasing? And what do each one mean? So if we take a look at the constants, we're going to look for horizontal parts of the graph. Now, a lot of people would say that there are 3, but we have to consider the entire graph. So let me highlight all of the constants. So it's constant from here to here, here to here, there, there, and there. And then it's kind of hard to tell where the graph ends. So we'll just say that the end of the graph occurs right here. So that means that there are a total of 5 intervals that are constant. How many intervals are increasing? So increasing means going up from left to right. So it's increasing there, right there, and right there. So there are 3 increasing. The decreasing intervals are here, here, and here. So there are 3 decreasing intervals. What I would like to do now is examine the time a little bit more. So let's look at the x-axis. Each square, even though it's hard to see on my screen, there are 6 tick marks from 5 to 6. So that means that each tick mark is 10 minutes. So the interval from 5 to 5:10 is increasing. So 5 to 5:10 is increasing. Then from 5:10 until let's say just before 5:30, so maybe 5:25-ish, is constant. So from 5:10 to 5:25 is constant. And then from about 5:25 to 5:30, this interval in there is decreasing. All right, so we're not going to go through all of those, but I just wanted to give you an idea of what we're talking about when we're talking about the intervals. Now, what do the constant intervals represent? So in order to answer this, you need to look at what the graph represents. So it's speed over time. So that means that if you are traveling at a constant here, that means that you are traveling at the same speed. So let's write that down. The speed you are traveling stays the same there. But I also want to point out these two right here. You are traveling at the same speed there, but look at what the speed is. It is 0. So that means when the speed is 0, you are stopped. So add that into your notes as well. Number 5 asks, what do the increasing intervals represent? So we're talking about the blue ones now. And the increasing intervals mean you are speeding up or going faster at that time. So the increasing intervals represent when you go faster or are speeding up. And finally, the decreasing intervals, which in this case are the green ones, that is when you are slowing down. So that finishes up the notes for section 7.5, and now I'd like for you to go to a Bitly and answer some questions. On the Google form, you're going to take a look at this graph and answer questions based on this graph. The Bitly you will find is bit.ly/increasing and decreasing. So go to that URL and answer the following questions. Make sure that you have this graph to help you answer the questions.